قرآن واسق حياتي قرآن.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, today we'll be learning 10 lessons from Juz 10. Let's go to our first lesson.
واعلموا أنما غنمتم من شيء فأن لله خمسه وللرسول ولذي القربى واليتامى والمساكين وابن السبيل إن كنتم آمنتم بالله.
The first lesson we get from this juz is the significance of khums. Khums is obligatory on every believer. It is divided into two parts, the two portions. One of them is Sahm Imam and the other one is Sahm Sadat. The gist of the hadith from Imam Qadim alayhi salam, where he says, whatever a believer has, small or big, in his yearly savings, khums is obligatory on it. If khums is not paid, the purity of our money is not guaranteed. Therefore, it is wajib for a mu'min to pay khums. We should select one date of the year, and then on that day, according to our surplus, we should pay khums to Mujtahid's office.
وأطيعوا الله ورسوله ولا تنازعوا فتفشلوا وتذهب ريحكم واصبروا إن الله مع الصابرين.
The second lesson we learn from this juz is stay united against the common enemy. The believers understand the enemy's plan to make them disunited. So they are careful in maintaining unity among themselves against the enemy. Enemies try to instill conflicts between us, between the mu'mineen, so they can win and we can lose the goal of our creation. Therefore, a mu'min should stand united with other mu'mineen against the common enemies.
وأعدوا لهم ما استطعتم من قوة ومن رباط الخيل ترهبون به عدو الله وعدوكم وآخرين من دونهم لا تعلمونهم الله يعلمهم.
The third lesson we get from this juz is make yourself strong in every field. A believer should make himself strong in every field, be it in social or economical field, so that he stands firm and strong in front of the enemy and their tricks. We should make ourselves strong by helping and training the mu'mineen to find work so they can also become strong. Also, we should try to gain knowledge of that particular field we are in and get to the top. Like the doctors, they can get to that top level and then inshallah they can try to help the Muslimin and Mu'mineen.
يا أيها النبي حسبك الله ومن اتبعك من المؤمنين.
The fourth lesson we learn from this juz is trust in internal strengths and not relying on strangers. A believer always relies on Allah and remains under His protection. Never relies on help from enemies. A good example would be Islamic Republic of Iran, who had stood against the enemies for about 45 years and never begged anyone for anything, be it finance or moral support. It is ranking top in different technologies such as nanotechnology. The verse says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sufficient for you. Now, if you are strong in media, we should try to train other mu'mineen and make them stronger. We can try to make Islamic animations, videos, documentaries to educate our children, and also try to create a platform of what our enemies have and we don't have.
لا يرقبون في مؤمن إلا ولا ذمة وأولئك هم المعتدون.
The fifth lesson we learn from this juz is do not trust the enemy. A believer knows that enemy is never trustworthy and will never trust his enemies, as his enemy will not stand on his words and not fulfill the promises.
فإن تابوا وأقاموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة فإخوانكم في الدين. ونفصل الآيات لقوم يعلمون.
The sixth lesson we learn from this juz is the importance of brotherhood in Islam. A believer understands the significance of brotherhood in Islam. As per Islam, all the believers are considered as brothers in faith, and they must maintain brotherhood among themselves. All Muslims, Shias or Sunnis, are brothers and should stay strong and united.
إنما يعمر مساجد الله من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر وأقام الصلاة وآتى الزكاة ولم يخش إلا الله فعسى أولئك أن يكونوا من المهتدين.
The seventh lesson we learn from this juz is significance of mosques in Islam. In believers' life, mosques play an important role as it is a central point of gathering and unity among the believers. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said on the day of judgment, three things will complain. Number one, a mosque which is empty. Number two, a Quran which is not being read for a long time and lies in the dust. And number three, a knowledgeable person who is readily available to share his knowledge, but no one makes use of him to acquire knowledge.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا إنما المشركون نجس فلا يقربوا المسجد الحرام بعد عامهم هذا وإن خفتم عيلة فسوف يغنيكم الله من فضله إن شاء إن الله عليم حكيم.
The eighth lesson we learn from this juz is relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all the affairs. If we are believers, we must rely only on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and have trust in Him. Once we start relying on Allah completely, we can face any sort of problem with confidence, especially when it comes to financial matters or sustenance, as it is provided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن كثيرا من الأحبار والرهبان ليأكلون أموال الناس بالباطل ويصدون عن سبيل الله.
The ninth lesson we learn from this juz is avoid accumulating or piling up money. A believer knows that this world we live in is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So He tests us in different ways: wealth, poverty, health, and etc. It is our responsibilities to spend in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The verse says, those who treasure up gold and silver and do not spend it in the way of Allah, inform them of a painful punishment. Everything one gains and earns is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, a believer should take care that where he is spending the money and should be in the halal way instead of piling up the money.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا ما لكم إذا قيل لكم انفروا في سبيل الله اثاقلتم إلى الأرض أرضيتم بالحياة الدنيا من الآخرة فما متاع الحياة الدنيا في الآخرة إلا قليل.
The last lesson we learn from this juz is refrain from laziness and procrastination. A believer avoids laziness and procrastination as these are the weapons of shaitan who uses to distract us from the right path. A believer knows his responsibilities and tries to fulfill them in the best way possible. In the verse it is mentioned, the pleasure of this dunya, the pleasure of this world is qaleel, is little. In one of the hadiths from one of the Imam, the gist of the hadith says that a person who is lazy in the worldly affairs will be lazier for the hereafter affairs. These were the 10 lessons. Inshallah, we'll come again with the next 10 lessons of the next juz. Till then, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
رحمن يا رحمن ساعدني يا رحمن اشرح صدري قرآن املأ قلبي قرآن واسق حياتي قرآن رحمن يا رحمن ساعدني يا رحمن